How we doing, folks? How we doing? I am Charlie Uczen. On the other side of the glass there is not Jack Pembroke, but it is Tommy Wortz. If you guys are just tuning in, you missed the first hour of Wisconsin Sports Weekend. Do not worry. It is going to be up on your free Odyssey app. You can rewind the episode on there, catch up on anything you missed in the first hour. We talked about the Brewers beating the Giants last night on William Contreras' first career walk-off home run. We talked about the Packers taking on the Seahawks this afternoon and what have been your biggest takeaways from the offseason so far for this Packers team. And then the last segment, we talked about Micah Parsons and some of his antics happening over the past couple of weeks that's leading to a divorce between him and the Cowboys potentially here, and what the Packers could put on the table in order to bring in a player like that. Again, you can go back in your free Odyssey app, rewind on there, or you can go on YouTube where we are live streaming Rewind on there as well. Also comment with us like our guy Eli has been doing all show, or like some of the other fans that just pop in and out. You can be like that, stopping for a segment, help us out a little bit, help talk with us. We love hearing from you guys. You can also hit us up on the Nicolay Law Fan Talk text line, 414-677-1250. Again, that's 414-677-1250. All right, coming up this hour at 10:20, we got Mount Pixmore as always in the next segment. We did pretty good this week. We went 3 for 4 with one short miss there, but that is all right. We'll try to continue the quest for 4, as our guy Jack Pembroke likes to call it, in the next segment. And then at 10:40, we'll have the Wisconsin Sports Weekend pub crawl as always to close off the show. But before then, this is one of my favorite seasons of like any time during the year. I love watching college football, especially the first couple of weeks where it feels like the biggest upsets can happen no matter what. We got a pretty loaded first week of the college football season, but before we dive into that, I want to dive into the Wisconsin Badgers a little bit, Tommy Wortz. I know you love the Wisconsin Badgers so much, even if it's a love-hate relationship at this point. What are your expectations for this team just right off the bat for the season?
Like bedrock, the lowest of the low right now. You could tell me the Badgers win one football game this year and it would not surprise me. I seriously am that is where my expectations are right now. Some betting odds, unfortunately not courtesy of the Potawatomi Sportsbook. You can't bet on your home college football state in Wisconsin. I just don't know how they get to 5.5. Like the over-under is at 5.5. I can't see them getting to 6 this year. I think they are extremely weak. I feel like the quarterback position has been downgraded. Luke Fickell, I have zero faith in. Jeff Grimes, like he's kind of where everything lies right now. It feels like he is the guy that we have to have some hope in, because the offense the last 2 seasons, just atrocious from Wisconsin. Countless times you saw the Badgers in games because of their defensive performance, and luckily that seems like it has been pretty close to consistent with Wisconsin during this stretch now. But Badger football, I mean, maybe the hardest schedule in the country this year, Charlie.
Probably. You have 6 ranked games just right off the bat.
Yeah.
You got Alabama in week 3. You got Michigan in week 5. You got Ohio State in week 7. Oregon then right after Ohio State in week 8. And then skip a week, you got Washington. Then you got Indiana in week 10. And then Illinois in week 12. Not to mention, you still have a full Big Ten schedule in between that. So you got Maryland, who's usually a team that fights pretty hard against.
And
Iowa could potentially end up being a ranked team. Like they usually end up in that spot.
We were in the same building for the Iowa game last year, if you remember that. And that was just a whole weird night in itself. And then the Badgers on top of it just absolutely pooped the bed. It was terrible. I have no faith. I don't know why you would have any faith right now in these Badgers. And I love the Badgers. I seriously will watch every single game so attentively with so much passion. And I'm just going to be sad at the end of it. I'm preparing for my Saturdays to always ruin my vibe now this year.
So Billy Edwards, the transfer quarterback from Maryland, the team that we were just talking about, is set to be the starter for this Wisconsin Badgers team. What are your expectations for now the 3rd straight transfer quarterback coming in to be the starter for the squad?
Oh gosh. Did you see the team photo going around, Charlie? Like, did you see what Billy Edwards was just squished in that team photo?
Yeah.
Like, it's what a stupid logic to have to like bring any sort of take on the radio with, but like, that's not a starting quarterback in the end. Like, it's just, he looks scared. He looks timid. And I don't have a lot to go off of with his Maryland performances, obviously, either. But the expectation at quarterback is now also plummeted for me with how Wisconsin's handled the situation the last 2 seasons, right? Tanner Mordecai and Tyler Van Dyke, and then both ending up with seasons of Braden Locke. So I think that Wisconsin, the over-under at 5.5 games is the easiest bet of an under on win totals right now, maybe in the country. And they better hope that they don't get upset one of the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would just be...
It'll destroy
just
everything. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think that may make me not want to watch the games at that point.
I watched, I was in, the last time I went to the game last year. Was it Buffalo? No, Buffalo was 2 years ago. I forget the first game of the season last year for Wisconsin. And like the entire time, just looking so sloppy, coming out so flat early on in the year. And they needed to send a message to taking on an unranked like
Western Michigan.
Yeah, it was Western Michigan. Yet like there's no reason. Was it 28-14?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Zero excuse for not pounding Western Michigan, Wisconsin. This is so ridiculous that they kind of buy into this era of college football, but really don't put a whole ton of effort into this era of college football. If you want to be like Clemson and you want to say, hey, we are not going to the portal, we are going to build our guys our way. We have a foundation. We have a culture we're going to go in with, and we're going to anti this era of college football. At least you can respect that and say, the Shaka Smart approach to all of this, where you are not going to buy in and not going to go all in on the NIL era of college sports. And it proved successful for Clemson, and Clemson is coming in as the preseason number 4 in the country right now.
Just absolutely insane.
The Badgers, on the other hand, decide, should we go out and get the best players to come in transfer, or should we just say, hey, these might be better than guys who are going to leave our program this year? Instead, they are worried about suing every single player that leaves in the transfer portal for other reasons right now. And I just don't even know how can you find 6 wins on this schedule this year? I don't know how you find 6 wins.
I don't. I look at the schedule and I see just disappointment. I also see a season that could probably be more catastrophic than just getting 4 or 5 wins. It could be worse than that.
I agree. I really think 3 wins is on the table. I do. I think they could win 1 game, and it would not surprise me in the conference.
What does 3 wins mean for Luke Fickell?
Oh, he's gone. I mean, 3 you're gone. 3 is... Now say that sentence out loud. Could you see Luke Fickell being fired this year?
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah,
easily. So now that is 3 wins, right? 4 wins probably does the job too. 5, they might hang on to him for a little bit, which I don't know why they would. But I would say that 3 wins guarantee, 4 wins or less will guarantee a firing from Luke Fickell. 5 will keep him on the bubble because they'll make some argument that, well, now it's his guys coming in, even though they all transfer out anytime he recruits them anyway.
Right. If we take a look at the rest of the Big Ten here, Ohio State wins the national championship last year.
Yeah.
Do you see the national champion coming out of the Big Ten once again this year?
I do, actually. I think that's a good question because if I get the entire Big Ten, I love my odds because I think Penn State's the best team in the country. Okay. I do think that James Franklin is terrible at beating teams that are better than him. I just don't think there are any teams better than him this year. He does a really good job at beating teams that are not better than him. He doesn't end up pulling any upsets or any big wins over teams that are ranked higher than him, it feels like. I do think that they got Drew Aller coming back. That's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. You got Nick Singleton, who's one of the best running backs in the country as well, plus a really awesome defense for Penn State. I think if I get to pick the entire Big Ten and I get to land amongst the stars of Ohio State and Oregon as well, I think those 2 programs are near the tops now in the national college, in the national rankings of college football. As far as like SEC opponents go, they're always going to be competitive. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, you name it there. I think those guys can make things interesting. But if you're going to say pick a conference where the national championship will come out of, I do believe it's the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think if you look at where the Big Ten teams are ranked in the poll right now, you got number 2 Penn State, number 3 Ohio State. You jump down a little bit, you got number 7 Oregon, jump down a little bit more, number 12 Illinois, number 14 Michigan, number 20 Indiana, and then that will do it for the Big Ten. I think that's a pretty good sample size of one of those teams being able to make some kind of push here. The one thing that I guess worries me a little bit, I think outside of number 1, Texas, number 2, Penn State, number 3, Ohio State, number 4, Clemson are both kind of a little closer to this edge for me. But 5 down, Georgia, and everybody else down from there, I just don't really know what to expect from all those teams, if I'm being completely honest. This feels like one of the most open years in college football going into the season that I've witnessed in a while now.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the benefits as a college football fan with the NIL and transfer era is that there is a lot of variety. And the other team that you really have to watch out for this year that I think is just going to be an extremely interesting team to study is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And that is because Texas Tech has now taken this approach in all of their athletics. On just being the most ludicrous NIL offers to the transfer portal that you've seen. They brought it in with their softball program this last year.
Kennedy, yeah.
Yes, and she got paid $1 million to go pitch for Texas Tech this year, which who does that for collegiate softball? But it ended up working out, and they made a run all the way to the Women's College World Series. And that was the first time they ever made that playoff, and they ended up making it to the final. They did fall in the final, but it puts them on the map. Texas Tech has the number 1 transfer portal class in the country. Any other school, you name it, Texas Tech is above them. They are going to really rely on, well, why even recruit? It's the Pitino approach of college athletics. Now, it's not going to recruit freshmen. I'm going to recruit guys that have played at the collegiate level and take all these bounce backs from Texas and Baylor and Houston, wherever they are. There's so many popular and talented schools in Texas, SMU, another one, right? That Texas Tech is going to use their oil money and try to make something happen out of the portal. I think they're a really interesting team to watch this year because that's going to be another way to look at something when you're recruiting in college athletics. And I think they come in at like 23rd on the year right now, Texas Tech. So their over-under win total at 8.5. I think that's a seriously interesting team to watch this year in college football.
Yeah, they could be a lot of fun. I think that's an organization or a program that in the past has been able to kind of operate in this fashion where you go out and I think, yes, it was more of recruiting. I think everybody kind of knows that there was some money floating around somewhere during college football at any given time.
No, Charlie.
But getting a guy like Michael Crabtree to come to Texas Tech when he did and having that air raid offense and just kind of playing this fun style of football is another way of getting, again, these transfer portal guys who want an opportunity to have that moment where they can just go off for a little bit. It belongs in Texas Tech. That's where it's always been, and it's kind of been the history of that team. And I think that now you have the money out in the open. It's a lot easier to convince those guys, even with a different style offense, even with a whole new coaching staff and all of that. It's still a destination where it feels like you could go there and just pop off no matter what, no matter who you are.
Yeah, I also think Michigan's going to be a fun watch too this year, or at least just pay attention to because they got Bryce Underwood starting at quarterback this year. They're going to have a guy who just turned 18 like 2 weeks ago. I mean, seriously, like 2 weeks ago. It was his 18th birthday. He's going to be starting at the University of Michigan. I think that could lead them to be underwhelming this year, underperforming. I think their ranking is a little high. I know the rest of their team, very talented, but you have the year of all these penalties coming towards them and fines and drama. And I think that an 18-year-old quarterback at the helm of that kind of worries me on what he can do. We know how good Dylan Raiola was, but Nebraska is also not a top 20 team in the country doing what he did. He's exciting. He's a great player to watch. But I think that things could shake up Michigan and they could not be as successful as some people are looking out for them just because of that youth and inexperience at the quarterback position. I understand he was the number 1 recruit in the country. I still just don't think that it's that easy to make that jump from playing high school football to now you are starting for a Power 5 Big Ten university.
Playing high school football and going to one of the worst D3 universities in the country was a huge wake-up call on its own there. It was just a completely different game of football, even at that level. So going the exact opposite way and going to the University of Michigan, playing in the big house, that's going to be a huge culture shock for a player like that. When seeing this and Dylan Raiola last year, those young players getting that type of start, do you think that's something that we're going to start seeing more often with the age of NIL? And is that something that the Badgers are ever going to do?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't know what more do I have to tell you that the expectations I have for the Wisconsin Badgers are basically like you could be frying McDonald's French fries and then the next day be the starting quarterback for the Wisconsin Badgers. That's how I feel about Wisconsin going into this season. But I don't know. I think that that's a very big ask to say that more 18-year-olds are going to start in college athletics. Maybe they're going to find themselves in some contract situations that'll get their hands tied where maybe we see guys go to smaller universities because they have that situation happen where, hey, Penn State is not going to let an 18-year-old start at quarterback, but why not, Temple,
Sam
right?
Houston, yeah.
Something along those lines, somewhere that has some money, some small private school like a Duke, right? I mean, you got the money there in these universities.
BYU's paying all their players $1 billion.
Right,
it feels like.
Right. Same thing where it's like if you have these universities that are kind of like big school adjacent, schools you've heard of, but not necessarily football powerhouses, maybe I see it in that situation. But as far as Michigan rocking it with an 18-year-old quarterback, like that seems like a rarity in college football.
Definitely. All right, before we take a quick break here, Tommy, real quick, I want to ask you, what are 1 to 2 games that you are most excited for in this first week of college football here?
LSU Clemson, number 1 on this list.
Easy.
I think that if anyone is actually going to throw a wrench into the Big Ten winning a national championship, I think Clemson is very interesting this year. They have an unreal defense. They're bringing back Cade Klubnik, who's going to be a Heisman favorite all throughout the season, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And they're sitting at a 9.5 win total right now that I think the over should be easy for them. Really, it is. And I know they got to open up with LSU, number 9 team in the country. But then they play Troy, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, UNC, Boston College, SMU. That'll be an interesting one, right? Duke, Florida State, Louisville, Furman on November 22nd. And then they end things with South Carolina, another ranked team as well. But if they handle business against LSU, which they have a great quarterback as well, that's the best quarterback battle we're going to watch in Garrett Nussmeier versus Cade Klubnik in week 1. That's the game, August 30th, so we're a week from that game still. And then even let's just say today, right? I mean, it's Kansas State, Iowa State, like it's Battle for Farms or whatever it's called. I can't remember, but I pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's like adjacent to that name as well. That'll be just fun just to see like what happens in the first game, right? And they're over in Ireland. That'll be a fun game to keep an eye on. That game literally starts and we're like 40 minutes away from college football starting, Charlie.
I know, it's just crazy. This is so much fun. I'm so excited. You go down again next Saturday to keep the first kind of week going. You got Texas, Ohio State. Obviously 1 versus 3 is going to be a huge matchup that everybody's going to have their eyes on. But a game that like I'm a little bit more interested in that is 2 unranked opponents. It's Auburn versus Baylor. I think that's going to end up being a really good game. And I think one of those teams, from what I've heard and seen from both of those programs, could probably sneak their way into the top 25 at some point this season. I think that's going to be a good like jumping point for one of those 2 squads to try to make that jump there.
Yeah, that will be awesome as well. I'm looking ahead now, trying to find some more. Wisconsin favored by 17.5 over Miami of Ohio, and the over-under is set at 39.5. Like that's another one where it's just like, give me more faith on the Wisconsin Badgers than I already can have. Is that they're supposed to win by 18 points, but yet they don't put up 40
they're going to win
the game.
On a game-winning field goal.
Right, yeah. Like I'm just over it altogether. Looking ahead more into some week 1 matchups that could be fun. I'm not seeing a whole bunch jumping out to me other than those games that we bring up.
Miami Notre Dame
could be a fun one. Yeah, that's the Sunday game, right? Yeah, I guess
you got South Carolina, Virginia Tech that day too. Might be kind of fun.
Here's another gripe I have. Virginia Tech should always open at home. Like, I just want to hear Enter Sandman first week. Like, football is back when that happens. And I think that that's a crime that they're playing also at they're playing at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Like, why? Why are those teams playing at a neutral site game? Let Virginia Tech host week 1 every single year, have a ranked team come in and have that crowd jumping. Like, that would be electric every single time. Do better, NCAA.
Exactly. Any stadium that's got like a big tradition, Michigan should open at home, Penn State should open at home. Like all these schools just need to open at home just to have that kind of vibe there. That would be awesome. I'd be 100%.
Yeah, and instead we're gonna have jump around with Miami of Ohio. Like, yeah, I'm so tickets as low as $7, Charlie. $7 to go
Beer is
watch
more
that.
expensive than the tickets at the games.
Sorry ass organization.